Hi, welcome to the channel. So this is episode 9 of my series where I talk about wargaming clubs. Today I'm talking about creating a welcoming environment and resolving conflicts. A good club is a friendly club. Here's how to keep things positive. So a few things that might crop up and we're going to talk about today is encouraging sportsmanship, handling disputes and making the club inclusive, and what we mean by that. Encouraging sportsmanship. I once was involved in a movement which was called it's not if you play, it's how you play. And what I like about clubs is clubs can decide who are members. So if I go to a gaming store to play, just rock up and generally play on open night, I can be playing anybody. And actually it's harder for the store owner to limit who turns up and plays, especially if a toxic player is spending £100, £150 a month, a week, whatever, is considered a good customer. It's harder for that store owner to make the business decision to tell them they're a toxic player and to leave. If you're running a club in a private place with a private membership and you've got a toxic player, it's easier to make that person go. You just have an open and honest conversation with them. So yeah, have a zero tolerance for toxic behavior. What that could look like is people who cheat, people who constantly make other members feel uncomfortable, toxic people sort of bully other people and be dominant, maybe talk to people first time, but actually feel free to move them on. That's one of the advantages of having a club and a membership. If you've got a bad feeling about it, approach the committee, and generally there'll be some sort of committee arrangement on that. There should be some sort of rules or guidance. We have a committee of 3 people, and we've always said if somebody was reported to us for toxic committee, a majority of the committee decision to ask that person to leave would be required to ask that person to leave, and I'm more than happy to have that conversation. The other thing you can do is promote fun over winning. If you make your club about having fun, playing games, not being about the winning, play less competitive games, maybe play multiplayer games, maybe play team games. It takes that emphasis of that big alpha dog and all the kind of macho nonsense that goes along with it. That takes a lot out of the detoxification of that win at all costs. The other thing about sportsmanship is if you're lead by example. As a member, as a player, I always shake my opponent's hand and wish them good luck at the start. I always thank them for the game afterwards. If there's a benefit of a doubt on a dice roll or a measurement or a rules call, I'm happy to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I'm there to have fun and roll dice. And, the more that people do that, the more it becomes accepted. And, yeah, the more it becomes a better environment. Yeah, I think as well, nobody deserves a game. If you are a toxic player or you come across a toxic player, don't give them a game. I once set up a game. My opponent was running late. I was at a gaming store, and I'd arranged a game, and it was a fantasy battle, and I'd arranged a game, and I was using undead, and my opponent, player I was playing, turned up late. My opponent actually had quite a nice game, and then I saw the person turned up late. Was like, yeah, I'll play you next, not a problem. So I'll make some changes to his army list, and we got on the battlefield. He changed his magic item to the banner which instantly killed undead if they were stood next to him, and I was using undead, and I was like, did you change your army list when you saw my force composition? He said, yeah. And so I just shook his hand and said, good game. He's like, what? I said, well, you've just sat and watched what's in my army. You've tailored your list. It's not great sportsmanship. You've won. I'll give you the game. Good game. You've won. He's like, yeah, but I want to beat you on the tabletop. Well, if you want to beat me on the tabletop, beat me on the tabletop. Don't create that list once you know what I'm doing, etc. Yeah, it was just an element of a bit of toxicity and how I handled it. And be like that. More people should be like that. You know what? Bad behaviour shouldn't be rewarded. So if you do have a dispute, having clear rules in play. So if you have a dispute over say cheating and stuff at the tabletop, you know what? It's a social contract. Maybe there's people around it. If you've got a dispute in the club, it's probably something to do with the constitution. Maybe what I often see is new members to a club or members of a club wanting the club to do stuff, and an existing committee structure not able to go forward with it, and there becoming a disconnect between maybe some members of the club that wants to take things forward and some committee that doesn't want to devote time. So have some clear rules in place. I mean, in that instance, there's a breakdown of leadership and communication, and I think the committee would be in the wrong. If a member wants to do some stuff, let them do it. Bring them on board. Have them sub join the committee and just do some stuff. I'd rather see people do stuff than not do stuff. But so if there's a disagreement between the committee and members, there should be clear rules in place how to structure an EGM. What to do at an AGM, what reporting should be in place, what you can expect from committee members, so you know if the committee member is holding their side of the bargain or not, as the case may be. Sometimes you're going to need to mediate conflicts. Hopefully a committee can step in and hold themselves accountable to the constitution they've set up. If not, you might need to get an external person in the community that you trust to come in and mediate and help make a decision. I've talked about AGMs and AGMs, so let's, in case you don't know, an annual general meeting. Every club and society should have an annual general meeting where the committee reports to the membership. The membership accepts the sort of reports. There'll be some sort of elections for new positions and discussions and agreement to go forward for the next year. Should something happen between the AGM, then the members should have the power to call an EGM. So it could be something like half the membership can agree to get an EGM, and we would run an extraordinary general meeting where there could be a thing of maybe our chairman has resigned and left the club, or maybe they've moved away for work, so you need to elect a new chairman, or maybe there is a vote of confidence required in the treasurer or whatever, or an incident that needs to talk. So you're able to call an EGM to discuss it, and EGMs and AGMs should be binding. If you can't come to agreement with that, maybe you need some sort of external person to come in and mediate. Certainly I have had to mediate a club that broke down. Two different sides of the club, the leadership and the membership, had different opinions on how the club was, and I was just able to ask some really simple questions of did A happen, did B happen? Well, if A and B happen, then that means C is the case, and if C is the case, this is the route forward you should take. And that's how it should be, just nice, simple, easy. Part of the problem with handling disputes is often ego is at stake, bruised feelings, hurt feelings. And you know what? Once there's been a breakdown of trust, it's very hard for two people who've had a serious disagreement to stay engaged with each other at a club. Yeah, it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. Making the club inclusive. So there should be nothing that happens at your club that puts off anybody. So any sort of racism, sexism, homophobia, anything like that should not be tolerated at the club. The fact that historical gamers tend to be older, white and male, shouldn't mean that we are not open to having people who are different to ourselves come in. Yeah, there's a place for banter and fun. Me and my friend often have a lot of banter and fun at each other's expense, but I do explain to people that, you know, we are quite savage with each other because we are friends. Um, but yeah, no, in terms of what your environment's like, people shouldn't be saying stuff that would put anybody off. Um, think about think about what that looks like, feels like to an outsider coming in, because you never know who will want to join next week. If you say, well, that sort of language and stuff's acceptable because we have none of that group in, you know, who knows if a member of that group wants to join next week and that banter continues. You know, you've created a hostile environment. Probably, yeah. Nobody wants that. We should be welcoming people to a historical gaming. We shouldn't be gatekeepering. You know, this, and I'm not one of those people who uh, hate the terminology of woke. You know, it doesn't mean what people think it means. I think we should embrace history. You know, my American War of Independence, American Civil War Army has Confederate battle flags in it. You know what? I'm not against people putting SWAT stickers in context on their miniatures. I think we should always appreciate history, learn from history. In history, there were bad guys, so don't believe on whitewashing symbols out of history. But you know what? When it comes to how we interact and choose to interact with people, we should always do that with courtesy and respect. But actually, on being inclusive as well, welcome beginners, welcome new people. You know what? Because we all started the hobby once, and if we know nothing or we get some information wrong, you know, don't be a button counter, don't be a gatekeeper. You know, loan out your stuff. If you are playing somebody who's never played a game system before and you know the rules inside out, don't be that toxic person that uses those obscure rules to win at all costs. You know, be generous in your praise. You know what? If it does look like I'm going to crush my opponent, sometimes I'll throw a few units out there just so they can kill some stuff and feel like they've had a bit more of an impact on a game. And yeah, make sure you're welcoming new people to the place, making them feel welcome, making them feel comfortable. Yeah, so how to welcome an environment, resolve conflicts, have clear rules, encourage sportsmanship, and make sure the club is inclusive. In the last episode, I'm going to talk about how to grow and sustain your club long term. So thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great time right now. If you've got any questions, drop us a line and I'll catch you again.